Shalom Aleichem Rabbi. Now is the week of Chukas. In this Sedra, we jump from the year, the second year to the 39th year. In this Sedra, we jump 38 years. 38 years we jump in this Parsha. Chukas. We are 3/4 finished with the Torah. We're in Bamidbar. But it's very interesting that this starts out with Parah Aduma, which was done in the second day of Nisan, the second year. They're not even out of Mitzrayim 12 months, so out 11 and a half months. And we go to Parah Aduma, and then we go to the death of Miriam. So we went from the calendar year, it's 2, but it's not even a full year. It's 11 and a half months because they got out of Mitzrayim on Pesach, middle of Nisan. And this is the second day of Nisan when they made the Parah Aduma. And we go from that to Misas Miriam, which is in the year 39. What happened to the 38 years in between? Says the Eben Ezra, everything in the 5 Chumashim. Well, everything in the 5 Chumashim that we have in our hands was spoken to Moshe in the first year and the last year. Everything in between, not one word of communication between Hashem and Moshe. And says the Eben Ezra, there's no communication with Hashem to Moshe for 38 years. Only with the first year, all the arguments and Matan Torah and Kriyas Yamzu and the fights with the Amalek and the Koshish Eitzim and the Gadev, all that stuff. And then we switched to the last year. The Meraglim was in the first year. Everything, the Egel was in the first year. And then we switched. This week said it was the crossover point. When they made, and it says, those Chukas Torah, these are the statutes of the Torah, something you don't understand, and it's about the Parah Aduma, which means the Parah Aduma is a red cow, has no black hairs, and you burn it up into ashes. You mix the ashes with water, and you sprinkle it on a person who has touched a dead body on the 3rd and 7th day. And then you talk about Misas Miriam, which happened the 39th year. And then 38 years in between, you don't hear a word. The entire Chumash is only on the first and last year. Says Eben Ezra, there was no communication between Hashem and Moshe. Why? Moshe was a little bit in Chayrim. God didn't want to talk to him. You know why? Because of the fact that when they sent him Meraglim, he said, they came to me and I didn't see anything wrong with it, so I sent them. Really, 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 if you're convinced that Hashem has given you Eretz Yisrael, you do not need Meraglim, you don't need agents. You come to Eretz Canaan, you knock on the door, and you have to trust Hashem, they're going to all run away. And Moshe said, well, I sent them. God said it's not against my will, but I don't need it. There's no mitzvah to do this. You went along with it. And they came back with a bad report, and therefore Meraglim's punishment is they have to spend, like you spend 39 days in Eretz Yisrael, so 39 days in the Midbar. 39 more years in the Midbar. So it's a little bit Moshe's fault. So Moshe was stickle Chayrim. But all what we have in the Torah, Moshe wrote down, everything that God communicated in the first and last year, the Eben Ezra says, nothing in between. Now let's go to and it's a crossover point, because Parah Aduma was made one day after the Mishkan was established. So the Mishkan was set up on the first day of Nisan, the second calendar year, but it was really not only 11 and a half months out of Mitzrayim. And then the next day was Parah Aduma, second day of Nisan. Now we have a $64,000 Bumba kasha, kusha patzatza. If Parah Aduma, which is a red cow, that you burn it up, and you take the ashes and pulverize it down to Afar. The Afer, the ashes you smash down to powder, and you mix it with spring water, and you sprinkle it on people that touch a dead body. That was given the second day of Nisan. After months and months and months and months of building the Mishkan, and you dedicated the first day of Nisan, that means the entire Mishkan is Tomei, because everyone touching it and building it and making it were Tomeim, because there was no way to get Tahar until you had the Parah Aduma from touching a dead body. And all of us are Tomei today, because you're born with a mother who's Tomei, because there's no Parah Aduma for the last 2,000 years. So every single human being is Tomei Mace. You couldn't come to the old, after Mashiach comes, you cannot eat Korban Pesach. You can't even come to the old city, it has Kedusha. So, we don't need it today, there's no Karbanos. But how could it be that they built the Mishkan totally tamei? Because the concept of mace and tahara from a mace, you only got with the Parah Aduma, which is the second day of Nisan. That means the entire Mishkan is tamei. Because everybody who made it was tamei, and if you're tamei, everything you touch is tamei. Why would God do that? Why didn't He give it to them a month before, and then they get fire in the Parah Aduma and sprinkle it on people, make them give it to them a year before when they were building the Mishkan, the year before, and the day after Yom Kippur, when Moshe came down from the mountain, and he should say, "Listen, Hashem, instead of a golden Egal Zov, build a golden Mishkan, and they give them Parah Aduma and make everybody Torah. Then you build the Mishkan." Why did it just after one late day after the Mishkan was made? Why was the Parah given on Beis Nisan, and the Mishkan was dedicated on Aleph Nisan? That is the $64,000 question. Anybody who knows the answer, I'm not going to tell you, call me on the cell phone. All over the world, wherever you are. 845-826-4789. That is the $64,000 question. Years ago, there used to be a radio program, $64,000 question. How is it possible? That's an enigma, a pella. Another $64,000 question. A week ago, we learned Korach. It said Korach died and all his children, everything he owned, died. So he figured he's going to win the argument against Moshe because he's going to have a great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson 16 doros away called Shmuel HaNavi. And Shmuel HaNavi is described with Tzadik Katomar Yifra. A Tzadik, like a palm tree, Yifra will sprout. And the last three letters of Tzadik Katomar Yifra is Korah. How could he have any children if all the children died? And every Monday morning you say Lam Natseach Libnei Korach Mizmor. That's mad. That's number Mem Ches in Tillim. So Mem Zayin, Mem Ches, Mem Tes, Nun, Nun Aleph. I think there's 8 of them from the children of Korach that David put in. If they're all Rishonim, it went to Gehenna. So please tell me. And he had no children that all died. So how could you can say on Monday, every Monday morning Lam Natseach Libnei Korach Mizmor and Shmuel HaNavi, please? That's another $64,000 question. And if you know the answer, call me. Wherever country you're from. Day and night, 24/6. 845-826-4789. You think you know somebody? Okay. Let's start this Edgar. This is the statute of the Torah. Chok, you don't understand the meaning. Commanded, saying, it comes from Bnei Yisrael, the money's together. They should bring to you, till Aaron, because Hashem told Moshe to tell Aaron. Moshe, Aaron, because it's done only by the Kohen Gadol. A red cow. Now, anyone who translates this red heifer doesn't know English. And he never spent one day on the farm, because a heifer is a baby cow. And a parah must be dafka 3 years or older. And a heifer is a baby calf, less than 1 year. It's an egel. That's a heifer, not a cow. So the guy that started years ago in the Chumash didn't know English. Look in the dictionary, you'll see a heifer is a baby cow. Completely red without even, it has 2 black hairs, the whole thing is puzzle. And the cow has billions of hairs. So you look over every inch, they have 2 black hairs is nothing. 1 black hair is good, 2 is puzzles. And you can't pull them out, because they'll grow new black hairs. Parah Aduma Tamima had to be perfect, no mum. Asher Ein Bo Mum has no mum on it, no external or internal mums. Asher Lo Ola Old that a yoke never went on it. Ayin Lamed should have been written Ayin Vav Lamed. Why is it written Chaser? Because not only a yoke can't go on it, not a bit in the mouth, not saddle, not what they call reins. No saddle, you can't even put a blanket on it, can't even put a 2-year-old baby on it for 1 second, can't put anything on its back, nothing, it can't carry even a blanket. Forget about sitting on it, no saddle, no reins, no nothing, no yoke. Give it to Allah, why not Aaron? Because Aaron once did a sin with a cow's a cow baby called Egel Hazor, and you don't want a Kanteger to be a Saneger. You don't want a accuse her, because he did it, to be a defender. He's not the man. So you get Allah he's not the Kohen Hedyo. At this moment, he is equal to his father. He's a Kohen Gadol. The Nisata Osot, the Gemara says, it has to be done by Kohen Gadol. But all other Paradumas, and there were about 7 or 8 of them in the history of the world, can be done by Kohen Hedyo. Osot, that can be done by Kohen Gadol. And the Lozvel HaKohen is in this moment, he is Aaron's assistant. He's a Kohen Gadol. The Hosi Osot, Mechutzamachim, take it out at the end of the camp, outside. And you know, the Jewish camp was in the middle with Machane Shechina, then Machane Leviyah, then Machane Yisrael. And Machane Yisrael stretched all the way out for 12 mil, which is 8 or 9 miles. But in Eretz Yisrael, in the Beis HaMikdash, it was like this. You had the Beis HaMikdash, then you had the Harabayas, then you had the hill going down, where the coastal is on the bottom, and then you had, a half a mile away, you had Hara Zaysim, the Mount of Olives, Hara Mishcha, the Mount of Olives. That's where the Paraduma was done, half a mile away. But in the desert, it had to be out of 9 miles away. So they did it half a mile away, and you could see from the Hara Zaysim right to the front door of the Beis HaMikdash. Where is that? El Mechutz Lamachane, the Shochet Ozer Lefonav, and he has to sheft it. Somebody has to sheft it in front of Elazar. Shkita kosher b'zor. You don't have to be any carbon. This is a carbon chatos, a sin offering for people who get tummy. So this be shefted before him by somebody in front of Elazar. But Lord Kach Elazar Kohen Midama takes some of the blood, the etzbo with his finger, the Hizra Anocha Pnei Ohel Moed, and he sprinkles it the Ohel Moed, which is 9 miles away, right in the midbar. But Eretz Yisrael is a half a mile away. Midama Sheva Pam 7 times. Well, did I ever tell you 7 and 10 are 2 numbers of completion? In this world, everything complete is 10. 10 fingers, 10 numbers, only 10 numbers. Seres Adibros. As for this world, next world, you don't need Seres Adibros. Asar Mamaras Nivra Olam. Everything is 10. And the world of Ruchni 7 is complete. The Challah goes around 7 times around the Chassan. You have 7 straps from the Tefillin, and 7 days of Shiva, and 7 days of Yontiv, and there's on Torah any time before Pesach there was a list of 49 sevens. The minimum sukkah is 7 tefachim by 7 tefachim, about 28 inches by 28 inches. The minimum sukkah. There's so many. Moshe has 7 names. Yisrael has 7 daughters. Everything. The 7 Ruchiyim, 7 heaven. Ruchni's completion is 7. In Gashmi's completion is 10. Anyhow, this is the part Aduma, it's a carbon 7 times. But Sarah is the part, you burn up the part, the 8 of in front of Elazar's eyes, as Ora the skin, as Pisara the flesh, as Doma the blood, and even the bones, as Pirsha, even the manure. Yisrael shall be burned up. And then the time takes 3 things: a piece of a cedar wood, a piece of branch, that's a leaf, that's I think it has to be an amod 2 feet. Then he takes azov. Azov is hyssop moss, this much, and shnei tolas, red string, dyed with the blood of a worm. Shnei tolas. Throw it into the cow when it's burning. A part of it, and they have to wash his clothes. Everybody here has to wash his clothes, and you take the ashes that the afer, you smash it down to offar, the dust, and you mix a little bit of that with living waters from a stream, a spring, a well, not rainwater, and you sprinkle it on a person, near a person, or over a person whose tummy who touched the mace. Therefore, when Mashiach comes, every single human being is tummy mace has to be sprinkled on the 3rd and the 7th day. You have to start the 7th day by going to the mikveh. I think they go to the mikveh every day, but on the 3rd and 7th day, sprinkle the water of the Paraduma. It's called Mei Nida, the water of sprinkling, because Nida means it sprinkles out of the body uncontrollably. It's called Mei Nida, it's called Mei Chatos, it's called Mei Paraduma on that person, and then you can eat a carbon. So if you have to eat a carbon Pesach, so you cannot eat carbon Pesach unless you're sprinkled on by the waters of more Paraduma, because you're tummy mace, eating a carbon. And you must eat carbon Pesach. All the other carbons you don't do Averas, maybe you won't have to bring a carbon. But carbon Pesach you have to eat, otherwise you can't Koreh. So you have to be in Yerushalayim as 1 week before. Right? but maybe a couple, 100,000 other people, or maybe 1 million people are also want to be there and get the sprinkler part of Duma. You think it's all going to happen 7 days before Pesach? You better be there 2 weeks before. So you have a forced vacation of 2 weeks. And you want to go to Yerushalayim or Sukkot? Also 2 weeks. And Shavuos also 2 weeks. You got a 6-week vacation. But after the first day Yom Tov, you can go home. Tell them, you're allowed to go home. So they sprinkle it on a person, and he becomes Torah. Now we have an enigma. That everybody involved here with burning it and carrying the water and everything and then burning it up, everybody is Tomei. Then the man who sprinkles it takes the water, sprinkles it on the man who's Tomei, because he touched a dead body, and he's Torah. Everybody who's involved with it gets Tomei. And the man who sprinkles it, or the man who gets it on him, sprinkled on him, he's Torah. Could you figure that one out? That's why it's called Chok. It's a mystery. Everyone involved is Tomei. And the man who you sprinkle it on is Tahar. The man who's Tomei gets Tahar. The man who was Tahar, he gets Tomei. That's why it's a Chok. It's something that you cannot understand. Enigma, a pella, how's it possible? How's it possible to take a shower and not get wet? That's the same thing. How is it about to put your hand in the snow and it's not cold? How's it possible? That's why it's called the Chok. So now my question is, Zos Chukas Torah, this is singular, Lashon singular, Lashon Yachid, this is the Chukas Torah. Why the 7 of them in the Torah? This is not the only one. You want to know what the 7 Chukim are? I'm sure you want to know. I'm going to tell you them. Paradu was number 1. Egla Arufa, you find a Jewish dead body. You don't know who the killer is. Then you take an egel, that's a heifer, calf below 1 year, and you chop his head off with an axe in the back, and then the soul of the man that was killed by somebody has peace, and it's like you killed the perpetrator, the Rotseach. That's not a chok to you? You kill some animal, and therefore it's like killing the killer. That's how you have to do it. That's called Eglo Arufa. This is blink. It's not someone calling me. It's a message is waiting. Someone is waiting. Anyhow, so maybe it's somebody calling me about this thing. Let me see. Well, forget about it. So Egla Arufa is a pella. So the Chachamim say that they touch the axe to the back of the neck. Excuse me, over there. They touched the axe to the back of the neck, and the animal ran to the home of the perpetrator, and he couldn't get out of that one. It's a Siman Min HaShemayim, and Siman Min HaShemayim. Oh boy, we got to turn on that light. The light went out. Wow. Cal, we have a blowout.
I can't even turn right back to you for a second.
All right, we can't do it. Again, we have to. The video has to be cut off because you can't see me. Please, we'll have to continue video later. I don't know what happened. Got a power failure over here. This didn't have no failure here, but it doesn't work. I don't know if you can see me. It's not bright enough. Can we turn off the video, please? There's a blowout. There's a power outage here. All right, we got it back. So listen, we have like this. Egla Rufa. How does that solve the problem? So it runs to the house of the perpetrator, but it's not just no Adam. And then they question the guy, question him, till he breaks down and admits the truth. Yes, so if he admits it doesn't make a man a guilty until you have 2 Adam. But it's a Siman Min HaShemayim. You're going to fight with that? Well, Lo B'Shemayim here. Torah's not in heaven. And the man admits it, so you go, your admission means nothing, you need to aid him. How does that work? Well, the Medrash discusses that. Go to the Medrash Tanchuma, you'll see it. Alright, next one is Yibum. You have a sister, you have a brother who divorced his wife, or he dies, and you can't marry her. Even if he divorced her, or if he dies, you can't marry her. It's a chores. She's one of the relatives. It's a secondary relative. It's a big averum. But if your brother dies without children, She's married to you the moment the man dies. She's married to you. Don't even need a ksuba. She has zikuk. She's already automatically married to you, your sister. You don't want her, give her chalitza. You want to marry her, make yibum. How is it possible that yesterday, if you married her, and the guy divorced her because he has children, but he divorced her, you married her, that's kores. Now he dies without children, it's a mitzvah to marry her, that's a pella. That's an enigma, that is a chok. Then you have a shotnez, I can wear wool and I can wear linen. I wear them together, it's a deraisa. Basa b'cholav, I can eat meat, I can eat milk, but I can't eat them together. That's another chok. Clay Midian, when they captured the town of Midian, they kashered all the dishes with fire or with hot water. Still no good. You had to tovel them. What does that do? When you buy new glasses and new stuff, you have to tovel them, even though they've never been eaten on before. Brand new dishes, never used. You can't use them until you tovel them. If it's metal or glass, metal is a deraisa mitzvah. Glass is a rabbanon, because metal and glass both could be melted. But if it's porcelain, china, which is nothing but clay, with a fancy name called porcelain or china, it's very, very fine clay, and it's fired in a kiln, and then it's glazed, then it's painted, or first painted, then glazed. And so, when you have chinaware or porcelain, you must tovel it without a bracha, because toveling it, because you're not eating off the clay, you're eating off the glass. And therefore, glass needs tefillah. But the keli itself is not the glass, it's the clay cheres, it's the pottery. So you tovel it without a bracha. Because glass, you're eating off the glass surface of the plate and the dish and the cup. And without the clay, you wouldn't have a need for the glass. You have the whole body, the chayf, it says clay cheres, so that doesn't need tefillah. But the glass does. So you tovel it without a bracha, it's called the china, for china. Clay midian. So now that's a pelda. How come I can't use it? I need tefillah. Well, how does that help? And azazel, you take on Yom Kippur a goat and throw him over the mountain, and all the averos are forgiven. So there's 7 chukim. So I can say those. This is because this is the most difficult of all. All these chukim, big Talmid Chachamim know the reason. 99% of the people do not know, but it is possible for big lomdim to understand this. It's a chok for 99% of the people. One thing, even the wisest man, Shlomo, Chacham Mikol Adam, could not understand. That was Paraduma. He says in Koheles, Zayin Chav Gimel, Vehi Rechoko Mimeni. This idea of Paraduma, that's too far from me. I don't grasp it. Vehi Rechoko is Gematria. Paro Aduma. So the wisest of all men could not understand it. My father brings down in the Mayim, Beis HaSheva, Moshe did understand it. He's a Chacham Mikol Adam. Moshe did understand it. Moshe Rabbeinu is more than an Adam. Moshe is Chatzi Malach, Chatzi Adam. Because you know, the Even Ezra has, at the end of one of the Parshas here, it has listed all the 10 angels. The Abi Ezri explains to Even Ezra, there's 10 malachim. The lowest one is a human being. You could be a malach too. If you have your whole guf mekudesh, you're like a malach. Avram was a malach. Avram wanted to kill his own son. Where's your feelings? You overcome your feelings. You do what Hashem says. That's what a robot. A malach is a robot. You do what Hashem says. That's like a malach. Ishim is one of the names of malachim. So a human being could be a malach, like Moshe Rabbeinu, like Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, like a malach. Moshe lived 40 days without food, 3 times. Not 3 days, 40, not 4. 40 days without food, 3 times. How did you survive? Moshe's Chatzi Adam, Chatzi Malach. When they buried him, they rushed up into the mountain, and everybody, 1,000 people were digging, they couldn't find his grave. Because he's more than a human being. And Shlomo is Chacham Mikol Adam. Moshe is more than an Adam. He's like a Chatzi Malach, Chatzi Adam. And therefore he understood it. My father explains that nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with Kedushas HaGuf. When you make your body, which is so physical, into a piece of ruchnius, there's no steer between body and guf. body and mind, you're higher than a human being. Shlomo was called Adam. He was on Adam still. Moshe was higher than that. Look in the Mayan. All right. Zos. That's why this is the biggest Pella of all Peloim. Then we get to the next subject in the Parsha, by Yovo'u, in the 39th year. It says that Miriam died, and Miriam died in the 39th year. We hear he's talking about Paradum, which is given on the second day of Nisan in the second year, first year, and it means 38 years in between. There's nothing in the Chumash about the 38 years. It says Evan Ezra, I told you, Hashem never communicated with Moshe anything in 38 years. Now, why do you put Miriam next to here? Because just like Paradum is Machaper for your Averos of Tumah, maybe you got Tumah intentionally, maybe not, maybe accident, and just like it's Matama for Tumah of Klal Yisrael, so Misa Sadikim, and that's Miriam, is Machaper also for Klal Yisrael's Averos. Now I said on the Kol Hagoshen Shir, I got 1880 of them already, 1880. I said there this week, because if Tzaddik dies in Eretz Yisrael, I'm in New York, I get Kapora. It says, just like the Paradum was Mechaper, and all Korbanos are Mechaper for your Averos, just like a Korban is Mechaper, so Misa Tzaddikim was also Mechaper. Therefore you put this Korban next to Misa's Miriam. That's how he jumped over 38 years. How is it possible that if Tzaddik dies, I get Kapora? Doesn't mean that. It means this. You go to a Levaya, you hear the Hespedim, you started to cry, you start to cry, you start to tears and crying, and you want to do tshuva because everybody has to go through Misa to get there. Not one human being ever escaped Misa. No, not even Moshe Rabbeinu. Eliyahu Navi jumped in a fire, okay, but he disappeared from this world. Every human being has to physically disappear. So when you think about that, you do tshuva. And when you hear the maspidim, you cry, and you boch, and you have the mos, and you want to do tshuva, and you have to go to Levaya, Melav and the Mace is a big mitzvah, Hesped, Levaya, Bechia, the mos, a number of things, that causes you to be mechaper for your Averos. You know, a chassan, when he gets married, the day of his marriage, Hashem atones for all his Averos. Because if he knows what he's getting into, that's the joke they want to say, he's crying. And all his Averos are done for because he's going to get into bigger trouble than he ever imagined. Yes, it's wonderful, but two intelligent people have a hard time. Two cream puffs to have no problem. But two smart people have a difference of opinion. And the closer you are, sometimes you have the biggest differences. So, but anyhow, chassan, and in the Sephardi wedding, the chatan gives all the bachrim bracha, because he has noki from Averot, no Averot. It's a few things where Hashem takes all your Averos. Nismana Rav al Tzibur, you become a big Rosh Shiva, a Rav, Rosh Sanhedrin, Kohen Gadol. As soon as you have a big achrayus responsibility, Hashem takes away your Averos. A few things mechaper your Averos. So, this is the second subject in the Parsha after Paraduma. Midbar Sin, in the Midbar Sin, which is Midbar Sinai. So why called Sin? Because they were commanded there. Nitztavu, from there, and Midbar Sinai has Har Sinai in it, and they were commanded the Torah. Midbar Sin, Sadi Nun. And the Gemara says, why is it called Midbar Sin? Because Nitztavu, they were commanded the Torah. If that's the case, it should be called Midbar Tzav, Nitztavu. Why do you call it Midbar Sin if they were Nitztavu, commanded to keep the Torah? So you say, well, Sin is a long letter, and Sav is, the Vav is a little letter, Sin, Sav. That's not the answer. When you are commanded to do a mitzvah, and you do it, you become holy. Asher kiddishanu b'mitzvoto v'tzivanu, this or that. Asher kiddishanu is holy. When you become holy, you're very mitzuyan. That's why it's called Sin. Midbar Sin, mitzuyan, you become excellent. Tops. Mitzuyan is excellent. If you keep the Torah, Asher Kiddishanu, every bracha you're making, for Chanukah light, which is Rabbanon, or putting on the talus, or going in a mikveh, a lady, a nidam, or eating mara, or matzah, any mitzvah, any bracha in the morning. Asher Kiddishanu, b'sobet zivanu, You made us made us holy by commanding us, by listening to Hashem. You get holy, and if you're holy, you're very mitzuyan. That's why the mitzvah sin. B'chodesh Harishon, in the first month, Nisan. That's when she died. Rosh Chodesh Nisan. V'yeshev ha'am b'Kodesh. They lived in a town called Kodesh. The Tomasham Miriam, she died there, and Aaron died Nisan Iyar Sivan Tammuz Av 5 months later in Rosh Chodesh Av. And Moshe died 8 months later after Av in Zayin Adar. So they all died in 1 year, the last year, 39th year. The oldest sister first, she lived to 126. The next brother 123. Then Moshe 120. But Tikva Ber Sham, she was buried there. So this is a very big complaint against Klal Yisrael. Thomas Sham, Tikva Ber Sham. What's wrong with that? She died and right away buried. Where's the hesped? So they made a little hesped, but it says they didn't make a long enough hesped. By Moshe and Aaron, it says Yivchu b'nei Yisrael. They cried and everything. Here it doesn't say nothing. Right after she died, they buried her. That's a simon. They made. It says they didn't make a hesped koroi, not properly. 10 minutes instead of 3 hours. This was not a good thing. Next pasuk shows that we're punished. But lo hoye mayim lo edo. There was no water for the community because Miriam, because of her, there was mayim. Because of Moshe, there was mud. Because of Aaron, there was Anania covered. So of course, she's dead. Well, what do you mean? What's the punishment? Didn't we just say that Misa Tzaddik is mechaper in her lifetime because of her supposed to have water? Now she dies. Misa Tzaddik was mechaper, so therefore she should have water because the Misa is mechaper. Therefore she should have water because it's mechaper all yaveras. Didn't have water because they were not hesped karoi. They didn't make a hesped properly, whatever that means. They ganged up on Moshe Aaron, the Yord of Ha'am, and Moshe, and they argued with Moshe after 39 years. They said, Lamor, saying, Lu Gavanu, we wish we would have died, like our brothers died, if they Hashem, and all the different things in the midbar, because thirst is the worst. Sama, Rashi says, Misat Sama is the worst than anything else. Why did you bring us Havos? Lama Havesam, why did you bring us as Kahal Hashem, this Jewish community, El Hamidbar Hazed, this desert, as if it's Moshe's fault? Lama Sham to die there in the last 39 years. Vanachni will be raining us and our cattle. But Lama had Lisan, and that second complaint. Why did you take us out of Mitzrayim to Egypt? Lahavio son El Makam Arazeh, to bring us to this horrible place. Or maybe it means Eretz Yisrael is a horrible place, you can't get in there, there's giants. But Lo Makam Zera, this place here is no seeds. Can't plant vegetables, or wheat, grain, barley, oats, rye. Yeah, cactus, but not for wheat, barley, oats, rye, and none of the vegetables. Utaino can't have a fig tree, no orchards, or the FN or grapevine, or rimon, pomegranates, or my English toast, there's no water to drink. Why don't you just say there's no water? What do you mean no water to drink? There's no water, you can't drink it. Ooh, there was plenty water, but it was inside the rock. 40 years ago, they argued against Moshe, and there was a place called Rephidim, and Hashem told Moshe to hit the tzur, a flint rock, very hard rock. And here we're at a sandstone. Sela has a lot of water in it. In fact, if you take the word Sela, Mayim is right in the middle of the word. Samach, Lamed, Ayin. Write it. Samach, Mem, Lamed, Mem, Dalid. Ayin, Yud, Nun, middle letters, Mayim. Mayim is inside the cellar, even in the word. Same thing with Yisrael. God is taking the Levim b'toch b'nei Yisrael. If you write out the word Yisrael, Yud, Shin, Reish, Aleph, Lamed, the middle letters is Levim. You think this is not a holy language? This is Lashon HaKodesh. It's not like French and German and Farsi and German, which is Yiddish. What do you think? Think this is Lashon HaKodesh? No, Yiddish is not holy. Lashon HaKodesh is holy. God created the world with Lashon HaKodesh, not with Yiddish. Yiddish is middle-aged German. So, okay, all from Yiddish speaking, true. But can you have some, not Kedusha, some Chashivas, because B'nai Torah speak it. and now it became, now that almost all people who speak Yiddish and are fry died off, mostly from people speak Yiddish. And he so say, now, why did you bring us to this horrible place? There's no water to drink. But Yova Moshe, and Aaron, and Moshe and Aaron came, because of the people came into Olmo, they wanted to stone him, kill him. Yiplop's name, they fell on their face to God, and they say, please save us. But the honor of God appeared to them right away. Then it said, Hashem told Moshe, take that mata, hey hayadiya, that one is lying in the Aron for 38 years, 39 years. Take that mata that you did all the miracles in Mitzrayim, that you split the Yam Suf one. That's Aaron's mata that had Yud K Vav K on it. Take that mata and pick it up and show it to people, and then speak to the rock. So Moshe spoke. We debarred him el asel, speak to the rock. So he spoke to the rock and it didn't work. He spoke and 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 it didn't work. So he said, look, 40 years ago, Hashem told me to hit the rock, but that was not a selah. That was 40 years ago. That was a tsur, flint rock. That's very hard. So he says, maybe I should hit it. Maybe it'll work. So he took his rod and he tapped the rock. The rock was the side of a mountain, by the way. It's not a little pebble. The side of a mountain. Selah. He tapped it. Boom. Oh, a few drops of water came out. He said, Aaron, look. Maybe this is what we should do. He tapped it again. A lot of water came out. He tapped it again. 12 streams. It split into 12 streams. And the people... It was a nace. Yeah, getting water from a rock, hitting it is a nace. And it was a tremendous Kiddush Hashem. For this, Moshe had to die. Chil Hashem. It says it's Kiddush Hashem. I know, and Kiddush Hashem, Chil Hashem together. Because the Kiddush Hashem could have been greater. There was a cholal, a hollow. It's 95% right. It should have been 100%. Keep talking to the rock. It doesn't work. Keep talking. Hashem never said hitting it. You made that up yourself. You made a chilul Hashem. Instead of Kiddush Hashem 100%, you made 90% Kiddush Hashem. For the people, it was Kiddush Hashem. For Moshe Rabbeinu, it was Chil Hashem. For that, he had to die in the midbar. When you are very, 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 very great, any little mistake is enormous. Any little mistake is enormous. When you have a white tuxedo and you take a black pen, put one little dot there. There's only one dot. Finished. The tuxedo's done. Gone. Worthless. If you are pure white like Moshe Rabbeinu, one chet doesn't. If you're not, you have so many averas like a black suit, you put another dot there with black, so it means nothing. The bigger you are, the harder you fall. The greater the tzaddik, every little tiny thing. So Moshe said, look, maybe we're right. I'll tell you, look in the words. The Nosa name of he'll give water. So that's when he touched it. A little water came out. But it would say so, and then a lot of water came out. Then the Shki saw, the third expression, 12 streams came out. Tremendous nace! Kiddush Hashem for them, Chil Hashem for Moshe. Yikach Moshe Zamato, Fnei Hashem, Yikash Sivo, like God, he was commanded. Vayakila Moshe Aaron, there's a call, they got him all in front of the cell, in front of this boulder, all the 6 million people. Listen to me, you rebels, you. He yelled, he insulted him. You rebels, you. After 39 years, you're still rebellious? He cursed them out. You rebels, you insulted them. Amin hasel hazen knows I can hit this any rock here. You think I have to know the real rock. When Miriam died, that well, her rock, jumped into the mountain cliff, and it was somewhere in the middle. They didn't know which one it was. So he said to the people, think I can hit any rock? I have to know which rock. What do you think? Yor Moshe says, Yodo, the Yachas Asel, he got annoyed. They caused his death. They annoyed him. And they should have said, Moshe, please pray to Hashem. We need water. Okay. But that's, you don't gather up against him. By your Rev, they ganged up on him. It's their fault. They caused the Mises motion. Okay, Moshe lost his temper, but it's their fault. But Yachas Asel, but Matthew, Pamayim twice. If he would have hit him once, it wouldn't have been such a big affair twice. But Yetzim Rab, and tremendous water came out. The taste to Edo Abiram, all the cattle. They had hundreds of thousands of cattle. Because you know why? Reuben, God, Chazishev, and Menashe had so much cattle, they needed their own country. on the east bank, all the way up from the Golan down to the Dead Sea. 250 miles. I don't know how wide it was. They need their own country. They had so much cattle. Millions of head of cattle. So it fed their animals. Yom Hashem Moshe Aaron Yando Amantubi. You don't believe in me. 99% good enough is not good enough. 99% good is not good enough. Lo Amantubi. You don't believe me. Lagdi Sheni to make a total Kiddush Hashem. Therefore you're punished. Lo Saviyos or Kol Azel or Arsashin Osatulhem. You're not going to bring this nation into Eretz Yisrael. Nope, 40 years, you frustrated man, that's a very big punishment. Hey, Mamei they are the waters of strife, of fighting. Ashiravu b'nei Yisrael Hashem. They were fighting with Hashem. They're fighting with Moshe? No, they're really fighting with Hashem. How do you see it in the pasuk? Ravu. They fought. The same letters. Reish, Beis, Vav. Rabo, your teacher. You fight with your teacher, you fight with Hashem. You argue with Hashem, you don't like what your teacher says. Rabu, Rabo. You teach, you fight with your Rebbe, you don't believe what Hashem says. Asher Rabu b'nei Yisrael Hashem. They're fighting with Hashem, but Rabo, it means with they were not fighting with Hashem, they're fighting with Moshe. Oh, you don't like the way he leads Klal Yisrael? You have a problem with Hashem then. Ooh, that's a complaint against them. Asher Nisatim lehem, Nasatim lehem. Rabu b'nei Yisrael Hashem v'yikadish bom. And his name was sanctified there, God's name. What does that mean? You got all the water, has to be sanctified. Your leader is going to be punished because of you. And Moshe saw that there's no double standards. Everybody has to follow the law. No difference. There's no double for Moshe and different for the rest of the people. Moshe was so impressed, it was a Kiddush Hashem. He saw that there's no double standards here in life, in Torah. Everybody has to keep the Torah. No exceptions. No double standards, and therefore, that's a Kiddush Hashem. That's a tremendous Kiddush. Moshe was impressed. That, no, he's not getting away with anything. Rabbi side, we're finished this year, and we had some light problems, a blowout, some little kids talking, but it doesn't always work perfectly like you planned it. Have a good week. This Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh, Friday night, Shabbos and Sunday, and we'll see you next month.